Welcome to Pangolin Chats. Today we're talking DeFi for Dummies with Christos, Shiitake, our head of people and culture at Pangolin. And before we jump into that, just a quick plug for Pangolin. We are the premier DEX on Avalanche. You can come get any token on the Avalanche network and trade with us. We also have analytics built in, great learning materials on our YouTube and Twitter. So come check us out. Today, the topic is DeFi for Dummies. We're going to answer some key questions around what is DeFi, how can you participate, what risks are there involved that you should be aware of, and what it really means to get involved. And I think Christos is a great person to be leading this chat because, as far as I know, he doesn't have traditional finance background. He's learned a lot of this himself, and he has great perspective on how this impacts your life. And I think we should be really excited to hear from him on that. So could you give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure, Coop. It's awesome to be here. Really excited to have this chat. Yeah, look, I'm the infamous Shiitake on Twitter. It's been a fun little ride using a pseudonymous character, being semi-pseudonymous because if you just search for me on LinkedIn, you'll find me anyway. So I'm not really anon. But yeah, look, it's been fun. DeFi is wonderful because it welcomes anybody to participate and learn. It's literally like a practical university. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having this chat.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, so let's jump right in to that first question. Like, what is the goal of DeFi?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, in my view, the goal of DeFi is really to distribute the participation in the global web of value, which is a new form of the web infrastructure that we've seen. Obviously, there was Web 1.0, then there was Web 2.0. Now we're going into Web 3.0, which seems to include the everyday user in the decision making that happens in developing any application that is going to be developed. So we're seeing like a software renaissance, which allows people to participate more. And there seems to be a financial benefit to it, which is great. And it doesn't discriminate against anybody in the world. And so for me, the goal of DeFi is not only distributing more financial opportunities to people in the world that maybe couldn't get access to those opportunities before, but it's also allowing those people to participate in a meaningful way, because there's some really, really smart people out there that might be able to build amazing software that we haven't seen yet. And the fact that in an open system, anybody can build anything that they put their mind to is really, really encouraging. So for me, yeah, that's the goal of DeFi, is just distributing that opportunity to people.
That's awesome. And I think traditionally it's been gatekept by traditional finance institutions, that they hold people back from participating via all sorts of rules. So now anyone can kind of join this movement. So how do regular people participate?
Well, for me, it's pretty simple. They're gonna need a machine of some sort, whether it's a PC, a laptop, or a smartphone. That's the one tool they're going to have. The next thing is they're obviously going to have a Web3 wallet application, whether it's embedded into a browser or it's the MetaMask app or the Coin98 app on a smartphone. They're going to need those two things to be able to participate. But beyond that, they're going to probably need a utility token. Now, my choice is obviously AVAX, because for me, Avalanche it's probably got the best engineering layer in the whole space. And for that purpose alone, and the fact that it's cheaper than some of the other amazing engineering layers like Ethereum, in my opinion. I love Ethereum too, by the way. That's where I started. I just think it's a no-brainer. But even if it's not AVAX, holding ETH, Sol, Luna, there's lots of FDM, Phantom, whatever it is you want to choose to explore. That's up to you, but that's what you're going to need. You're going to need machine, you're going to need the application to participate, and you're probably going to need a utility token to get started.
And the quick takeaway for a utility token is that it's basically the fuel that makes your transactions real, right? And actually connected to a blockchain that can be verified transparently. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's it's the fuel that makes the machine function, right? You're gonna
Right.
have to pay gas, and it's only because it's a decentralized system. In a centralized system, we're paying third parties to manage everything for us. So if you're using a broker to trade stocks, obviously the broker is making some profits there. In an open system, the system has to drive itself. And the beautiful thing about any of these systems is that anybody can participate in delegating or validating that system and be rewarded with those that gas that people pay to use the system.
All right, so before we jump into the rewards of participating in the system, which I think obviously everyone wants to hear about, let's make sure they're a little educated on the risks. So can you walk us through high level, what should people be looking out for when participating risk-wise?
Right. When it comes to the risks, I think of four come to mind. The first one is market risk. Now, this is not just for DeFi, it's for any market where there is a level of speculation with financial rewards involved. So, in any speculative market, you have assets that are quite volatile, they move up and down in price. And so, one of the major risks that people have to be aware of is if you come in and you invest into something and then it drops in price, you've got to manage that accordingly before you even invest, by the way. So like you need to have that strong mindset. I would recommend people to read plenty of books on investment mindset. Read some of Nassim Nicholas Taleb's books. His books have been fantastic for me, at least when it comes to preparing for what you cannot prepare for. You know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow or next month. But alongside that, just risk management according to percentages, according to numbers. Don't overexpose and overextend yourself with any investment or any trade. So that's number one. Number two would be hacks and exploits. So obviously we mentioned that what we're seeing is a software renaissance. It's a software heavy space, and with any software, the code is involved. So there can be hacks and there can be exploits, in some cases more than others. And that's why we have audits in the space. Audits are fantastic. They ensure that the code has been reviewed and ensure that there's no potential for an exploit. However, there are cases where even audited code can be exploited or hacked. We're all human. We can miss things. So there's always that risk. I think that's one of the biggest risks in the space. That's not always straightforward. And due to that risk, one great way to prepare for it is just get insurance. There's a couple of insurance protocols, Insure Ace. So where viable, get insurance. Pay for the insurance. It's worth it, even if the risk you think is low. You just never know what's going to happen. And then beyond that, the funny thing about any space where money is involved and where there is lots of hype that drives emotions wild is that there are opportunists in this world, and those opportunists will take advantage of an opportunity where they can take your money. So there are scammers in the space. It does not mean that because there are scammers that are taking the opportunity to scam people that the whole space is a scam. The space is a wonderful space, and because it's a wonderful space, it is attracting these people to take advantage. So be aware of that. Just be aware that a lot of the teams that build applications in the space will choose to remain anonymous, and this could be for a really good reason because they want to protect their identity. There's lots of reasons we can go into why they would want to do that, but some people just want to ride off of that and take advantage of people, and if you don't know who they are, then they cannot be held accountable for the bad actions that they can do. So just be aware of that. Take your time before you start using any protocol. Do your own research. Seek advice from people that have been in the space for quite some time, because usually they will, at the very least, be able to tell you even if somebody's anon what their reputation is, because you can have somebody that is anon and still has a good reputation. And that doesn't mean that somebody whose identity you do know will definitely not scam you either. That's another thing.
Yeah,
So just be aware. I think the best thing is seek advice from others in the space and make an educated decision there.
I really resonate with that. I mean, being a part of the pangolin community has been extremely helpful to me in understanding the risks, even beyond the risks that you just mentioned. It's people who have been doing it for a while know what to look for. And if you can trust them, it helps a lot. Okay. So just to recap, the risks are market risk, which you'd have in like a stock scenario or any sort of investment scenario, hacks and exploits. So on that front, really look out for audits. But like you said, audits, people can make mistakes. It's rare, and audits help. Scammers is a big one. I mean, just don't give people your information. But like you said, that happens in any market where there's a lot of interest. Okay, great.
I would add one more. So there is one more risk, but it's all down to the individual. So there is always that personal risk of making mistakes, i.e., sending your funds to an address that you didn't mean to. That
Yep.
happens, and like I've dealt with this because I teach DeFi and I teach this to people in my country. I live in Ireland, and I've seen this happen where they've sent tokens to the wrong address, and then it's that emotional regret
Yeah.
of doing so. So just be aware of that. You will make mistakes, and do your best to kind of take your time with things. Don't rush into doing things.
Yeah, and that's a factor of like we don't have a bank in the middle making sure that you aren't making a mistake there. But I think that feeds nicely into the next conversation, which is like, what are the rewards for this? And I think even if we don't get into the numbers, I'll just say that the rewards are significantly higher potentially than the standard finance practices because there's fewer middlemen. So why don't you talk us through the rewards of participating in DeFi?
Yeah, look, this is obviously my favorite part to talk about because I believe that the rewards heavily outweigh the risks, at least if you're managing everything well. And as a simple philosophy in any investment is high risk, high reward. There is higher risk in this market, therefore there is much higher reward. So the first obvious reward is that there's great financial benefits, much higher than you'll see in the stock market, what you'll see with your bank. I don't even think banks give interest rates anymore. We've gone into negative interest rates at this point. And it's not just on volatile assets, it's also on stable coins, which are pegged to the dollar. So, even if somebody is a bit wary of holding something that's volatile, they could just go into a bunch of different stable pools and earn quite a considerable amount of interest on that. And there's a high level reward when you get in on something that is truly innovative at an early stage. So similar to those that might have bought Amazon stock in the beginning, or when Amazon was a pretty small company compared to what it is today. It's like the livestock of our lives. I order everything on Amazon, well, almost everything on Amazon. So the reward of getting in on these things early is fantastic. But just going beyond the financial perspective, if you think about the rewards, if we kind of swing back to what we said in the beginning of what's the goal of DeFi and distributing that opportunity, the beautiful thing about DeFi is that it's a practical university. So we're all learning in real time by using these protocols. And so we're learning an array of different topics. It's a mixture of computer science, finance, gaming, the development in just different languages and different types of coding, business, marketing, community management. Like there's so many things that we're learning collectively in this space. And so there's a great educational reward that you get from participating in the space to add to that great financial reward that can come. And so when you think about how everybody in the space is learning, is growing, and is creating because of the fact that the system is a platform that facilitates more creativity, that level of operation that everybody is tuned into is so inspiring, and it gives us a sense of purpose, and that purpose gives us fulfillment. And if anything, if there's something in life that people need, it's a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, because it's really good for us mentally. It helps us feel good, right? And we're part of a movement because it's a shift in how we do things in the world. We're learning even about politics through the governance models, how to, create new types of organizations, how people are paid in those organizations, and making it more autonomous where it's not a corporate structure. So the rewards are just so immense. It makes me smile. I can't stop smiling when I talk about this part. And then I guess bringing it in all together, the fact that you get to work with other people that are all engaged in similar stuff with an array of different skill sets and talents, the community that is being cultivated out of this, it's just a bunch of people that are super smart, driven, funny, like don't take things too seriously, at least in comparison to like TradFi and
Yeah.
the corporate model. Like that is amazing. And that's what I love about it. So, bringing it all in, it's a financial benefit, an educational sort of personal growth benefit, reward, and also you're making friends, you're making buddies for life.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely resonate with all that. And I think it's been the most exciting space that I've worked in. I did work in e-commerce pretty early on, and it had a similar energy, but this goes beyond in that we see applications to all sorts of parts of the world instead of just selling things online. So 100% agree.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing journey for me personally so far. Awesome. Well, any closing comments on like DeFi for Dummies? Like what else do they need to know?
I think the closing comments would be this. Don't be detracted by some of the complexities. So like one thing I've noticed, because I've taught a lot of people about DeFi, and continually every week I run a class about this, and I'm working with people that are in a bunch of different age groups, from 18 to 30, from 30 to 50, and beyond, 50 to 70. I've got some people that are in their 60s, and obviously when you're working with the older generation, it's really, really difficult for them because, I mean, Web 2 alone was quite challenging, right? Because they're not used to it. So what I would say is take your time to learn these things. And if it's difficult to learn it alone, buddy up with other people. The one thing I always encourage people is that life is about connection. Life is about community, right? People connecting with people and having experiences together. So connect with other people, create groups, help each other out to figure out how to do a simple swap on a decentralized exchange. Or if you haven't got to that yet, how do I even get my funds in there? How do I, do I need to buy it on some centralized exchange first to then send it to my wallet? How do I do that? Do that with other people, practice it. And when things seem a bit complex, just take a breather. You don't need to figure it out so soon. And just speaking more to the younger crowd, for those of you that are a bit younger, I know that when you're younger, you're really impatient and you really want to learn everything now. You want to know how to do it now. And because you have such a desire to know it now, it's not that you can't learn it. It's just your impatience might drive you to just push it away because you're like, well, if I can't learn it now, I'm not going to bother, right? So take your time with everything. Get into groups, talk with people. There's a lot of nice people in the space that can help you. And for those that are from the traditional finance space or even just the traditional business world, what I would say to you is, yes, the APRs seem quite high. And yes, it's really hard to believe because maybe for 30 years, your exposure to APRs has been totally different. The interest levels in TradFi and in banking are just nowhere near what we're seeing in DeFi today. But don't be deterred because it's real and it's happening. And it's not like you have to put everything that you have into it. Just put in a very small portion, try it out, and you'll see that it's a very real phenomenon that we're going through. And actually, we need more people from traditional finance to come in to experience it and then to share their experience with other people as we grow the movement. And so that's it from me, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great. Okay, thanks so much.